Hello my lovely friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be the first in a series of videos that I'm going to do this summer about feeling overwhelmed and maybe a little teeny tiny bit stressed out when it comes to junk journaling supplies, junk journaling paper. Okay, let's talk. Let's just get right into this, because this is something that I have been thinking about actually for quite a while. And in the back of my mind, it occurred to me that this might be a really good series and something to take on here on the channel. Because again, I know that if I'm thinking about feeling stressed and overwhelmed and how it's impacting my creativity, there's a fly in here. It's gonna make me a little bit crazy. Then you are thinking about this too. I got an email this week from Lori, and it just really, it was the catalyst I needed to really spring into action and say, let's tackle this, let's talk about this, because I was looking for something to do with you guys over the summer that wasn't just about me. I don't know. I could do a lot of videos where I'm showing you what I'm doing and working in my journal, and those are fun, don't get me wrong. But I sort of feel like there's a certain aspect about journaling and junk journaling and paper crafting in particular that doesn't really get talked about. And I really feel that it's important to sort of put this kind of thing out there. YouTube is full of amazing women who can show you how to do techniques and tricks and hacks and all kinds of things 1,000% better. Bitter. All of a sudden I had a very British moment. Who can do these things much better than I can at this point in my junk journaling journey. But one thing that I feel like I can really bring to the table is having a conversation about some of these things that really matter to us. And I've said this before in a lot of other videos. As junk journalers and journalers, and as creatives, we are by nature, the reason why we have been attracted, and this is just my opinion, but part of the reason why we find journaling so pleasing and attractive and enticing is because it's twofold. We get to play with a lot of really great supplies, and we get to really indulge in our love of color and texture, but we also get to express ourselves. And I know that all hobbies as a general rule are about expressing our creative sides, but with journaling we're literally putting words onto paper that talk about how we feel, the things that we're going through. We're document that's gonna be one for the blooper reel. We're documenting our lives, whether we're trying to leave something for children and grandchildren, or we're just leaving it something that we're doing for ourselves. It is a process of engaging with our emotions in a way that not all crafts are suited for, right? Like, I'm thinking knitting and crocheting. They're amazing ways to be creative, and you can certainly heal and find great calmness and a sense of stress relief and all of those things through many other hobbies and crafts. But as journalers, I find that there's just something a little bit more intimate with the connection that we make with paper in particular, and all of the things that come with it. So I really want to talk about some stuff that I've been noticing, that I'm seeing in comment sections, like just in general around me, what other women have been talking about. And so Lori had sent me this email, and I knew that the moment I read it that this was something I really wanted to shed some light on, And basically her concerns was she was reaching out to me and saying, I'm really overwhelmed. Like I'm overwhelmed with choice. I'm overwhelmed with just where to start sometimes, how to finish things sometimes. She talks here about lots of her fears. She talks about, am I doing it right? Ooh, oy vey, we have all, I mean, right? Show of hands. Am I doing this right? I know that when I first started this channel, I literally thought about calling it something like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm gonna do it anyways. And I'm no expert, but we all have this sense that we want to do these things, but because we are inundated and overwhelmed with a lot of information, I call it creative stage fright. I felt like this often when I was sewing, and I have felt it with paper as well. It's just being overwhelmed. So I want to talk a little bit about the things that hold us back. I've made some notes. So I have notes over here and I have notes here. So forgive me if I'm kind of looking all over the place, but I didn't think I wanted to just wing this one with you guys. Cuz so I wrote down some notes. So we struggle in ways that I don't think that we should struggle when we're crafting. And when we're in really, the whole point of doing the journaling and doing crafting and hobbies as a rule is to immerse ourselves so that we can forget about all the other craziness that's going on in the world around us, right? Like it's supposed to be the thing that lights us up, that brings us joy. And it breaks my heart when I get emails like this that are full of self-doubt and confusion and overwhelm. And I've been there, and I really feel like part of what I can do to bring to this community is to help have a conversation and to share my thoughts, my opinions, my experience. And I'm not going to tell you anything maybe that you've never heard before. I'm not, there isn't going to be lightning bolts coming down where I'm not Moses with the templates coming down from the mountain. But I think that what can be helpful is listening to other people have conversations and talking about their experience, because then you're like, oh my God, me too, me too, me too. And there is nothing better in the world than sitting with someone and being able to interact, even if it isn't totally in person, where you realize that, oh my God, you too, me too. So that's what we're going to do in this series. And so what I would like to do is, if I look at my notes here, I would like to talk about the absolute crushing feeling of being overwhelmed with choice. I think that's something that's really important to talk about. Now, we're not going to cover this all in one video. I can see Cheryl. Cheryl's out there thinking, she's going to make a short video and it's going to be 4 hours. No. We're going to do this in several bite-sized videos. I know I always say, like, we're going to do a short video, and then meanwhile, an hour later. This whole idea of overthinking things that, I've talked about overthinking, it's a curse. It's a curse, my friends. It's a curse. But you are not alone. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. This whole idea that we have all this stuff. We love our stuff. We love our stuff. And I don't have any I don't have any super duper hyper perfect explanations for a lot of human behavior. But, I know that finding this stuff and searching for stuff is just as fun as using this stuff. And if I'm really honest, often the thrill of the hunt can be way more intoxicating and exciting than actually having the stuff and the supplies and using the supplies. So at some point I want to talk about that. And really at the end of the day, what happens is that we end up getting into these cycles and these spirals, and a lot of it has to do with negative self-talk, and I want to talk about that as well. So what I want to do is I want to start off today by talking, and as a little bit of an introduction, if you will. And what I do want to do is we're going to talk about some of the basics about, not to get too sciencey, but our brains are wired in a certain way for us to do certain things. So on some level, it's not a surprise that we struggle with some of the things that we struggle with when it comes to the way that we approach our problem solving and the way that we deal with some of the conflict within ourselves when we're working. I was going to say within our hobby, but I'm going to use journaling because pretty much I'm guessing journaling is why you're here. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, I'm going to be also referencing a couple books that I absolutely love. This is called Craftfulness, and both of these books, I have to be honest, I will look it up. I'm not sure if these are currently both in publication. I've bought both of these books used from Amazon. The first one is called Craftful, again with my rented lips. Craftfulness, say that 5 times fast. Mend yourself by making things. This is a fantastic book because the essence of this book is basically about how hobbies and crafting can be an incredibly wonderful, soothing, perfect way of healing through all kinds of difficult situations. They talk about in here about how the Tao of making, crafts and creativity, craft, creativity, and mental health. They talk about getting over negativity in here. They talk about, there's anecdotal stories and things in this book. And there's a lot of really great stories in here about how people basically knitted their way through incredible grief and sadness and depression and anxiety. I really highly recommend this book as a way of, again, if nothing else, realizing that, oh my God, I'm not the only one, right? This, Mindfulness Crafting, A Maker's Creative Creative Journey by Sarah Samuel. Leaping Hair Press. I'm going to be referencing quite a bit out of this one as well. This is a whole series. I didn't realize this is other titles in this series. The Art of Mindful Baking, Mindful Bird Watching, Mindful Gardening, etc., etc. There's a whole list here of mindful books and, yeah, mindful crafting. So I'm going to be talking and quoting from here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about why we think the way we think. This is going to be the Cole's Notes version. Some of these things you may know, maybe some of these things you may not know, but I thought it would be a great place to start. We're going to talk about this. Then after that, I'm going to show you a very, very quick and ridiculously easy exercise to help you get in a better frame of mind if you are struggling with trying to figure out what you like, what you don't like, if you're struggling with a blank page, or even if you're just, you're in a funk, if you have what I love to call creative stage fright. Sometimes some of the most helpful exercises are the most simple. And I have to be honest, I debated with myself whether or not I should even put this on camera and show you, because it's so painfully simple, but I think it has real merit to it, and I hope that you will find it helpful. I want to talk a little bit about part of what Lori wrote to me. What stuck out to me the most in her email was getting stuck in overwhelm. It's just like choices. Like my granny used to say, spoiled for choice, right? The amount of supplies that are on offer to us is staggering. And I do think about my granny a lot in the sense that she was a crafter and she loved to make journals. When I think about the supplies that were offered to her, even 20 years ago before she passed, versus the volume of supplies that are on offer to us on a daily basis is beyond staggering, right? And so we have all this stuff coming at us. Then you factor in social media, Instagram. We're constantly seeing what all these other people are making and what they're doing. And we're scrolling and we're looking and we're trying to process all of it. Right? Like, I can just feel my blood pressure going up. With all of that, it's just, on one hand, it just lights up our senses like a Christmas tree, right? We are just inundated by the sense of potential. Our creativity was firing off. All our neurons are going off like crazy. And it's fun and it's exciting, but it's also overwhelming. Okay, so here we are. We are looking at all the stuff. We are imagining all the potential. It's really fun. It's really exciting. Our neurons, like I said, are going off like crazy. And it isn't just one sense that's being activated. We are activating our touch, our sense of touch, the tactileness of using the supplies, feeling the paper, like all of it. Our sense of like seeing, obviously, that's a given. Even our sense of smell, like especially if you're somebody who likes to go out and buy old books and use books in the journaling process, there's nothing better than cracking open an old book. If you don't like that smell, then it's not going to work for you. But you're just like, there's something really magical about the smell of an old book. So we have all of this stuff going on. And then, like I said, we have social media and we are being inundated with copious amounts of information, which at the time, it feels great because we're so inspired. I mean, I don't even know if inspired covers it, right? Like we're really like, yes, I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Like. Right? And then reality kind of sets in at some point, and it feels deflating because you were sort of on this creative high, and then that's where the inner critic and those little voices start to it starts. And it's a roller coaster, right? So we've gone from being, again, it's not natural, but it feels good because in the sense of this hyperstimulation, you're just like, whoa, this feels great. Because as creative people, being inundated with potential, it's a little bit like a chocolate, right? Okay. There's this sort of the letdown where the overwhelm and the negativity kicks in because you get super duper excited, you buy the supplies, you look at all the social media posts, and then when it comes time to actually execute and do the thing that you want to do, then all of a sudden it's literally like a needle across a record. You're like, wait, what? Why can't I? Why can't I just make this happen? It feels really crappy. So, let's flip over to the page about negativity. One of the reasons why I really enjoy this book so much is because she talks about the fact that creativity can be a challenge. And for those of us that love to make stuff, some days it is a challenge. Some days it flows like it's the most natural thing in the world. And I think that's where some of the issue lies, is that you're like, I was flowing great the other day. How come I'm not flowing great now? Like, what happened? It's like you wake up one day and you just sort of feel like your mojo's gone. And then again, the negative self-talk kicks in, and it just sends you into a spiral. So let me read you this. The pressure to be creative can spark all sorts of insecurities. Unless we can be gentle with ourselves when we come up against negative feelings, then we are less likely to continue going deeper into our craft. Whatever arises, be they feelings of not being good enough or fear of getting it wrong, having tenderness for these vulnerable spaces inside us lets us feel confident to keep going and enjoy the process. As humans, we all have light and shadow, and it is the acceptance of our whole that enables us to be present. And I was like, whoa, when I read that. Again, these are things that we all instinctively know, but it's dealing with that, the ego and the inner critic versus your soul that's trying to guide you, right? Again, it's the devil and the angel. I should try and see if I can find two little devils and angels. The angel side of you, the soulful side of you, is saying, just make something. Just glue something on a piece of paper. Just write something on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just let it light you up. And then you got your inner critic over here, and who's like, nah, 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 nah. It's not good enough. It's not right. You didn't do it like so-and-so did it on Instagram. And you're just like, okay. So back to the fact that we are hardwired, sadly to say, to look for the negative. Because negative is what kept us alive. And it's deep, deep in that lizard brain part of our brain where back in caveman times, you had to be hyper aware of any irregularities, because noticing irregularities, knowing and seeing what was wrong kept you alive. It kept you from being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. It's just our brains, my friends. It's just in our brains. I found a quote that I think you will find very interesting about negativity. According to neuropsychologist Dr. Rick Hansen, the mind is like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. And I was like, oh, it's so true. So let me read you something very quickly about the biological basis of the negativity effect. Our brains have been hardwired through evolution to focus on the negative. Traced back to prehistoric days, primitive man had to be able to register threats to avoid danger and increase survival rates. Individuals who are more attuned to danger, i.e. negative stimuli, we're going to have a Sophie sighting in a minute. Hi, Sophie. Oh, you're wet. Is it raining? Oh, it might be raining. The individuals who are more attuned to danger stayed alive. Don't put your bum in the camera. Stayed alive longer and in turn passed on their genes. So, all that to say that when we're consumed with negativity, it's hardwired into us. Not to say that we don't have any real choice about, because obviously we can, we can overcome obviously negative thoughts. But I thought that would be helpful to share, because I think it's important to understand, like I said, that you don't go into this negative spiral because you're just a negative person and, you have no self-control, or that's just who you are. I mean, yes, it is who we are, but negativity is just a part of us. And the trick, of course, as we all know, is like everything else, it's learning how to manage that negativity, learning how to manage and challenge it. I mean, that's the next part of this, is to understand that there are a lot of things that we can do to to stop negativity in its tracks and be like, you know what? No, I'm not okay with this. This isn't what I want for myself. So, it's good news, bad news. The good news is that it's literally, programmed into our brains to see and to focus sometimes to oh, hello, Sylvie. The good news is that it's just a part of us. It's hardwired into us. The bad news is that it's hardwired into us, right? But I wanted to read you a quote again, because one of the things that we can do to help overcome when the negative wheel, the hamster wheel, keeps going around and round, is to slow down and really try and get curious about the perspective that we're holding and ask ourselves why it is that we're saying these things to ourselves. To literally stop and just, it's really hard to do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is easy, but it is always really helpful to just say why. Try and be more curious about the things that you're thinking rather than to be judgmental towards yourself. All right? If you can open up yourself to a place where you can be like, I really want to know why it is that I've gone. Why am I in this? Why am I thinking this? Why am I saying to myself, I'm not good enough? Why is it? And I don't mean like you don't have to go back into something happened when you were 4 years old. I just mean in the moment, challenge the thoughts and give yourself time and space to really consider why you're thinking what you're thinking, and to just be like, just because I think it, and I've said this in many videos, just because I think it doesn't mean that it's true. Maybe there's aspects of what we're feeling that are true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that when you're sitting there and you're thinking, I can't make my page look like a page that I saw on Instagram, so I'm a failure and I'm no good and I'm no good at journaling, and you know how that goes. To just stop. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself when you're having these moments of negativity and feeling overwhelmed is the gift of just space. Put some space in between the reality of what's happening and what that monkey brain is telling you. And so there's a really great quote again in this book, Mindful Crafting, where she's talking about just this idea of tuning in and tuning out, and being able to decipher between what you should really pay attention to and what you really should just question and be like, that's just not true right now. I am good enough. I am creative enough. I just need to bring down the volume a bit. Okay, so let me read this for you. With time and space for stillness, extraordinary things can come. Just as when a seed is planted, it needs to be left in darkness. So too do we need to trust our own creative process. Too much intervention will often cause the seed to die. We need to trust that a shoot will emerge. The requisite of creativity is letting go of the need to know what is coming next. Let me say that again. A requisite of creativity is letting go of the need to know what is coming next. When an intention is planted to create something, there needs to be trust that our unconscious mind is working on it. Again, that was a really big light bulb moment for me. And even though there's a part of me that knew that to be true already, because again, I'm not really telling you things that you haven't heard somewhere or you haven't already thought about, but it's being in the right place at the right time and hearing it in such a way where it really resonates and you're like, boom, I'm having a light bulb moment, right? You're like, I get it. Or you just understand it in a way that you didn't understand it before. Been there. And then there's a quote at the bottom of the page here: stillness is where solutions and creativity are found. Eckhart Tolle said that. Now let me say that again for you. Stillness is where solutions and creativity are found. So, when you're sitting and you're struggling, remember that sometimes the antidote to spinning and the overwhelm is to pull back and put some space in between the chaos and your soul. Because when we're trying to do creative things and we're in the midst of creative pursuits, it's our soul, not to get too woo-woo on you here, but that's what propels the creativity, right? It's not just our brain, but it's also our intuition. Intuition is what guides our creative process, because there's a lot of debate out there about where creativity comes from, and is it divine intervention? You know, some people obviously have a propensity to a certain skill set to be really good at certain things. Some of us struggle with other things, but it is that sort of intangible quality. There's a magical quality to our creativity and our need to express ourselves that propels us to get into the hobbies and the crafts that we do, and to really enjoy the things that we do within those, whether it's paper crafting, again, knitting, whatever it is, right? And I had read somewhere here as well, our bodies, when we're immersed in the creative process, our bodies tell us things that our minds can't. And that's where the intuition and sort of letting go where that can lead us, in the sense that it leads us to feel what we need to do next, as opposed to what we think we need to do within this creative process, right? We've all been in certain situations where you make something and you just sit and you look at it and you're like, I can't explain this. I don't know why. I just know I do. I like it. I like the way this looks. I like this collage. I like the way this paint looks on this paper. I like these two papers together. I like the way this layering of tags looks. Again, that is the zone that we're supposed to be in, this magical place where we don't know why. We just know that we really do like it. And if we're in a place of overwhelm where we're constantly being bombarded with outside information, there's no room for that, for your soul, your intuition to guide you into a place that is just about you. It's supposed to light you up. And I'm not going to get into social media right now, although I could, but I don't want this to be a 4-hour video, Kathy, right? But it is something to keep in mind, and we will talk about this in another video. Social media really can create havoc with our intuition, because we start comparing ourselves and our abilities and our likes and our dislikes to what other people are doing and what other people like. I love social media because it is incredibly inspiring, and I've seen things like, you meet people and you see their artwork, and if it wasn't for social media, you would never know these people even existed. It is, beyond inspiring, but it is also incredibly overwhelming, because then we start comparing ourselves to what other people are doing and what they're creating, and instead of allowing our intuition to guide us in a certain respect or a certain direction that is meant for us, we are being bombarded with what everybody else's intuition has guided them towards. There's a very fine balance there. And again, I know that you already know this, but I will say that I've reached my own saturation level with with social media, and in the sense that I've pulled back a lot from Instagram in particular, because I found that it was really impacting my ability to explore my own creativity. I needed to take a step back. I needed to really separate and understand that what I see, in particular on Instagram, is not what I should be trying to do. I'm struggling to articulate this because I don't want to heavily influence your own, the joy that social media can bring, because it really does bring a lot of joy. But it is important to be mindful of when you're sitting and you're working, and if you start comparing yourself, I mean, there's that old quote, comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. I'm going to have to look that up. I'm pretty sure that's how that goes. But you know what I'm saying. It's true. It's true. We compare ourselves and our abilities and our techniques to what other people are showing. And the thing to remember, and again, this is not new. You already know this. People put their best work on social media. People put their absolute, for the most part, the best stuff, right? They're not showing you all the mistakes that they made and how they got from point A to point B. They're not showing you the really messy, murky, grungy, dirty stuff that had to happen for them to be able to show you that beautiful post. And like I said, I mean, I did actually think about creating this YouTube channel, thinking that maybe that would be helpful. If I just showed everybody all my mistakes, my ego would take a real bashing. But I think we do ourselves a disservice when we don't see all of the stuff that happens in between point A and point B. So just be mindful of that. When overwhelm comes and you're comparing yourselves to all these amazing people on Instagram, they are amazing, but so are you. You just don't happen, your path is different at this point in time to their path. And they haven't shown you all of the muddy, murky, messy stuff that happened, right? That you don't see the behind the scenes. You don't know. Maybe that beautiful journal page, maybe it took them 2 weeks, right? And so you're sitting at your desk and you're plodding along and you're thinking, oh my God, how is it that I can't recreate this journal page that I fell in love with on Instagram? Well, because, sister friend, and there's so many reasons why you can't. And on top of that, there are many reasons why you shouldn't. It is a wonderful thing to be inspired by other people's works. There's nothing new under the sun. But take it and put your own spin on it, and then be really proud of how you reworked it to make it something of your own. Because that's really where the joy should be. The joy comes from allowing your intuition and your sense of style and your sense of your use of color and your use of texture and your use of paper. Allow it to flow through and make it something that you don't need to compare to somebody else's stuff, right? It's hard. I'm not saying it's not. You just can't turn it off and flip a switch and go, well, all of a sudden I'm not overwhelmed and I'm going to feel great about everything I do because I'm a genius. Right? But when you know better, you can do better. Who is it? I think Oprah said that all the time in the 80s and 90s. When you know better, you do better. A car for you, and a car for you, and a car for you. So in the final part of what I've written down in my notes, to allow yourself to flow, to be open to flow, and if you can, try and be open to curiosity. Be open to trying to just, why do you feel the way that you're feeling, and how can you reframe it into a different perspective? My friends, for me, perspective is a game changer. As soon as I can shift my perspective, I It may not be a huge sense of relief, but I find a little teeny tiny little bit of relief, and that relief is enough to help me breathe, to adjust some of the overthinking, and I think, okay, let's look at this from a different angle. Let's consider different options. I really do believe that giving yourself the gift of perspective and flow can bring you relief. And that's what we're looking for in these moments of overwhelm, emotional, and to some degree intellectual and creative overwhelm, is that we just want things to slow down. So if you can be like a little fishy and flow through the water, it helps. Sorry, that's my app. It really does help give you the space to sort of shake it off, regroup, so that you're not marinating, right? The trick is to not get stuck there. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of a pity party for a little while. The key is not to get stuck there. The key is not to belittle yourself, talk down to yourself, and not speak kindly to yourself to the point where you stay stuck and you walk away and you don't create at all. That's I mean, really, this is what I want for you. I want you to take away from this video that there are, you need to keep going, you need to keep creating, and you need to tap into what makes you tick. And then at the end I just wrote, allow yourself to say no. No, this isn't working. No, I don't like this. I don't think this is going to be good for me. I wrote, saying no can be hard, even to ourselves. I mean, I know a lot of us struggle to say no. But sometimes saying no, we don't want to, again, that's a conversation for another day. But allow yourself to just say no. You know what? I tried this. I saw her do it. This just isn't going to work for me. No, I'm just not going to. No, I'm not going to finish this if I don't like it. That's another big one. No, you know what? This isn't working. I'm going to start over. I'm just going to allow myself to start over. Don't shame yourself. Please, 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 please. Please, I mean, we all do it. I know. But please don't shame yourself. There are plenty other places where we bring shame to the table, not in the creative process. Please, please allow yourself, again, the room and the space to really open up yourself and to find safety and comfort where your intuition is guiding you creatively. Shame will show up in so many other parts of our life. And so please be mindful of the self-talk. And it's hard. I know it's hard. That's why, that's why I really wanted to do this. And so I'm going to leave it there. I am, in the sense that I want to thank Lori for sending me the email, and it's not easy always to reach out to a complete stranger and be like, I'm really struggling, and but you're not alone, Lori. And everything that you've talked about, I've certainly have felt. And I did want to say something about a craft room. I know that in the email you had said something about, Sophie sighting, moving things around in your craft room, reorganizing your craft room. I think that one of the most fun things about having a craft room and a craft space is that you can organize things and move them around. I move things around by season. I move things around by project. So go for it. And you know what? There's something to be said about shifting things in our craft spaces, whether it's a room, whether it's a corner, whether it's just a little space on the table. When you move stuff around, you sort of clear up that energy. And look at the cat hair. Thanks, Sophie, for the cat hair. Let me see if I can tip this down. Do you want to say hi? Hey. No, you're being a little bit shy today? Are you being a little bit shy? Okay. We all know what it's like to clean something out. you know, you clean out your closet and you open it up and you're like, oh. It really is about clearing out stagnant energy. More cat hair. So, by all means, move stuff around. We'll talk about decluttering, and I'll having a Marie Kondo moment. Kondo? Marie, what's her name? I wrote it down. Yeah. If you wake up one day and your intuition and your soul says, you know what, it's time to move stuff around, move it around, because it's going to feel great. It's going to feel great. So yes, by all means, move your stuff. Clear out, dust, tidy. I don't know. Again, it's hardwired in our brain, right? And the sense of newness in that space, you feel it. Like it's so tangible. You know, whether, again, it's a closet. You every time I clean the kitchen floor, I'm like, oh, that's a thing of beauty right there. So, okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a very quick exercise. I'm going to do a voiceover. I've already done the taping of it. But I find this to be a very helpful thing when you're trying to figure out, when you're stuck, what you like and what you don't like. And this goes a little bit back to the negativity issue that we talked about, where we're, you know, again, predisposition to focus sometimes on what we don't like. And what I like about doing, Sophie, what I like about doing this is it actively engages our brain, and so we're focusing on what we like, and that is the focal point of using only things that we like. So I'm going to get out a box of scrap paper, and we're going to do a collage, a master board. We're just going to glue down some pieces of paper, which again, this I'm a little bit embarrassed because it's so simple, but I find that actively engaging my brain and only looking for and using and touching and picking up the paper that I like is a great way of resetting my brain when I'm having creative stage fright, because it helps me really understand what I'm looking for based on what I like, and it lights up that part of my brain because visually I'm seeing only things that I like. It's super simple, but it's really effective, and I hope that it'll work for you when you're looking for something to do when maybe you just don't know what else to do. And the best part about this thing is that we all have scrap paper. We all have way too much scrap paper. And the one thing that I like to do with this also is that as I'm picking through the box, I'm actively putting to the side the papers that I don't like, and then I'm going to recycle them. I'm no longer keeping them in the collection because I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to hang on to all my scraps because I might need to do a project one day and I might need to, right? So subsequently, I keep a lot of paper I don't like. And I know that there are bigger problems in the world right now about whether or not we have a pile of paper that we really like or we don't. But the exercise here is in the repetitive motion and the repetitive thought process of picking out things that we like and actively discarding things that we don't like, because this really helps us to focus more when we're moving on to next projects or more other projects about what it is that we want to use and why, because it's activated that part of our brain where we realize, ooh, I like that. I gravitate towards that. I want to use that, as opposed to thinking, well, I bought this paper, I should use it. Even though I don't really like it, I probably should because I don't want to be wasteful. Or I saw somebody else use it in another project, and I really liked the way their project turned out, so I should probably use this color, this stamp, this stencil, whatever it is. So forgive me for being so obvious in this next little part of the video, but I hope that it will really show you in real time just how simple the reset in our brain can be. And by actively, getting rid of paper that we don't want, that doesn't light us up, and we have that Marie Kondo, actively getting rid of things and having that Marie Kondo moment where you're like, this just doesn't light me up. And you forgive yourself for buying paper that you didn't like, or you forgive yourself for buying a color you didn't like. You know what? Pack it all up, take it to a charity shop or a thrift store, and let somebody else have the thrill of finding an amazing treasure because they do like that paper, because they do like that color, that stamp, that stencil, whatever it is, right? Okay. I hope, my friends, that you found something helpful in that. I'm really excited to do this with you, to have this conversation with you, to talk about these things. I hope that what you will do is comment down below and let me know how you feel about this stuff. What do you do to try and combat these overwhelming feelings of, we're going to talk about too much choice in this series. We're going to talk about the fact that there's just so much thrown at us season after season after season. I don't know. I'm not sure that Tim Holtz needs to come up with another color of blue. Some days I just look at it and I think, how can they possibly design another color of blue? But yet here we are. Another color shows up, and it's another stencil and another thing and another thing, and it's a lot. It's extremely exciting, but it's also very overwhelming. So, please comment and share, because I would like this to be a dialogue in this community and the little group of us that get together. I don't want it to be just me talking. I would love to know your thoughts, and I always read your comments, and it means a lot to me that you share your thoughts and feelings. And I always learn something from you guys as well. And it's really nice to be able to share things and know that you're not the only one. And I've said it 1,000 times, but the moment you think, God, am I the only one? Know that you are not by any means the only one. So, okay, let's get on to the next part of the video. What I'm going to be doing here is gluing down a bunch of pieces of paper over another piece of paper that I don't really like, and I'm going to use this page in a future journal. But really what the aim here is to do is pick pieces of paper that I'm going to glue down and create this collage, pieces that I really like. And the premise of this exercise is to say yes to yourself more than it is to say no. And I like this because it helps reset and put me in a different frame of mind, where what I'm doing is I'm really just saying yes, and I'm looking at the things that I like, because it's a nice way of resetting from when you're feeling overwhelmed. Because when we're overwhelmed, or we're feeling like we have creative stage fright, there's sort of this inadequacy that we don't know what we're doing. And if we don't know what we're doing, maybe it's because there's something about this I don't like. I don't like this. I don't like what I've done here. We're comparing ourselves to what other people have done. And this ridiculously simple exercise really allows you to indulge in just working with what you know you like. It doesn't have to match. It doesn't have to be great design. It doesn't have to be a master board that you're going to cut up and use for anything else. The whole idea here is to say yes to yourself more than you say no. And if there is something that you pick up and you don't like it, then you have one of those Marie Kondo moments where you set it aside and say, this isn't working for me. I only want to work with things that I want to say yes to. Because I find that, so much of our day, we concentrate on what we don't like, what's not working. We do concentrate on the negative aspects. You can tell at the end of the day, you can talk to somebody and say, oh, all of these are the things that went wrong. This is what happened. But this way you can have this almost like a meditation moment where everything that you're working on here is a yes. Everything is designed to just make you feel positive and happy about the choices that you've made. We tend to focus so much on what the things that we don't like that some days we don't spend enough time thinking about the things that we do like. And I find that when I do something like this and I don't overthink it and I don't allow the sort of, hamster wheel to take over, this is a really great way of just resetting, and I feel refreshed. I feel accomplished in a weird, simple way, even though this is really it's just cut and paste. But it's the sense of satisfaction that everything I look at this page makes me smile. Again, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. It just has to make sense to you, and it just has to make you feel good. Because really that's the whole point of the process. And also you want to create something that you're proud of. And when we're overwhelmed and we get into comparison mode or we get into stage fright mode, then we're not proud. And this is a very fast and simple and easy way to feel really good about something that you've created, because everything on this, you're like, I said yes to. So I hope that helps. I hope that this really will help you with overwhelm. And here's Sophie saying goodbye, and thanks for watching. Speak kindly to yourselves, and I really enjoyed spending this time with you guys. Take care, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Mwah!